Okay, thank you for coming out today. Welcome everyone to this great day for sporting events in New Orleans. I want to acknowledge a few people here before we get started. First of all, our dais here, we got Troy Dannon from Tulane University. We've got Dennis Lauscha, the president of the New Orleans Saints and the Pelicans, Steve Perry, CEO of the New Orleans CVB, Doug Thornton, senior vice president with SMG, and of course, our world-renowned mayor. Mr. and Mrs. Benson are also here. Thank you for coming today. We've got the chairman of the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, David Sherman, several executive committee members here also. Vincent Palumbo, thank you for coming out today. Philip Sherman here, our legal counsel who helped negotiate our agreements. Thank you for all of your help and all of your support. Today is a very special day. The NCAA has officially awarded the 2022 Men's Final Four to New Orleans. We're very excited about it. I want to thank the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee and the staff of the NCAA for their support and providing us an opportunity to place a non-competitive bid, an exclusive bid for one of the best sporting events in the world. So we're very excited about this. This announcement today culminates about 5.5 months worth of work and behind-the-scenes work with our partner, Tulane University and Troy Dannon, as a host institution. And it would not be possible without the support of Steve Perry, Alan Freeman and Doug Thornton of SMG and entire Superdome staff, Bob Johnson and the staff of the Convention Center, Ryan Burney and the mayor's office, of course, the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office, Tom and Gail Benson, and the entire group of downtown hotels who participated in this. This is just a great, proud day for the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation and all of our partners. We work tirelessly to bid upon and manage these events once they're awarded to New Orleans. But today's announcement would not be possible without a couple of very well-known unsung heroes, Tom and Gail Benson. It's common knowledge that in our industry that you cannot host a Super Bowl and a Final Four in the same year. So when Mr. and Mrs. Benson were approached with this exclusive opportunity that we had to bid on a Final Four without a competitive bid process, Mr. Benson said, absolutely, we want to move forward and support the Sports Foundation and the city and state in this bid, under the understanding, though, that we're going to be all in for 2023 Super Bowl bid. And we're going to move forward with that, hopefully be invited to bid on that in May, and be awarded that in May of the year after. So thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Benson, for your cooperation and your care for our city and state. It really did make a huge difference for us. Speaking of partners, I would like to ask Troy Dannon, Athletic Director at Tulane and our host institution, to come up and say a few words. Troy?
Jay, thank you for the introduction, and thanks for the opportunity to partner with the New Orleans Sports Foundation to bring the 2022 Final Four here to New Orleans. We value this because this is the flagship championship of the NCAA, and to be a partner in bringing this to our great city, we really appreciate that opportunity. I'd also like to thank the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee, the Men's Basketball Oversight Committee, the NCAA staff, really for the trust and confidence in not only awarding the bid, but the process by which they awarded the bid, the non-competitive piece, as Jay explained. There's no event that defines the NCAA more than the Final Four, and their endorsement of our city, not just one time, but 6 times, is extraordinarily significant, and we shouldn't forget that. And having sat on the other side of the fence a couple of times, I've been on 2 different NCAA championship committees, and I have a real good idea of what the NCAA is looking for when it comes to the investment and commitment of a city and all that goes along with the city in not only being awarded a bid, but successfully managing and pulling off a national championship. And having been here now only 11 months, I will say in the last 5, during this process, I have been extraordinarily struck by the universal and total commitment of the state leaders, of the mayor's office, the city leaders, of the CVB, of the hoteliers, SMG, certainly the Saints and Pelicans organization and the Benson family, and Jay and Sam Joffrey in the Sports Foundation office. I consider myself, and I hope you all do too, very, very fortunate to have moved to a city and live in a city where all of these entities can come together in the way they came together here in short order in a very unique bid situation to get this done. And I hope you share my appreciation for the work all of these entities have done, because this is just one more indication that New Orleans, in the eyes of everyone in the country, is the greatest sports city, the greatest city to host any championship sporting event that there is. And so I want to extend my appreciation on behalf of myself personally, but our institution, for all that everyone has done to allow this to happen. I said 6. This is all old hat to you. It's new to me. This is 1 to me. But I spent 49 years of my life in Iowa. And my formulation of New Orleans, and my opinion of New Orleans, comes a lot from what I watched on TV. I was a sophomore in high school when Jordan hit the shot, and Georgetown passed it to Worthy to seal that national championship in '82. And I remember watching Keith Smart had that fadeaway jumper when they couldn't get the ball to Alford, and Indiana won it in '87. I remember watching the timeout being called by a big guy I'm not going to name his name, but he played for Michigan, the timeout being called that helped lead Carolina to a national championship in '93. I remember Syracuse won in here in 2003. They beat Kansas, and what I remember about it is after the game, that Kansas guy went to North Carolina to be their head coach. And if I have one little point of privilege, that guy's going to be here tomorrow night playing Tulane at the Smoothie King Center by chance. And then I remember just a few years ago in 2012, there was this amazing team from Kentucky led by this freshman, Anthony Davis. And thankfully, I think for all of us, he never left town since. These are some of the greatest moments in college basketball history, and they all happened here. This city helped define college basketball, and let it not be forgotten. The Final Four is a whole lot more than basketball. It's a celebration of basketball, but it's a celebration of college athletics. And if I've learned one thing in 11 months and 4 days in New Orleans, there is no greater place to celebrate anything than in New Orleans. So this is a perfect match. So with that, I want to congratulate everyone that had anything to do with getting this event to New Orleans. But more than that, I want to thank everybody, because it took a lot of work in the middle of an all-star bid that we received as well. A lot of work to get this done, and I have great appreciation for everyone and their contributions. So thanks, and roll wave.
Thank you, Troy. We have been quite busy the last several months. Next person is our mayor. Mayor Landrieu has played a vital role, and his staff have played a vital role in attracting major events to New Orleans and helping us manage them. It has been a great partnership with the city, and it has grown, and the work that you and your staff have done have made it easier for us. It was as difficult as they are now. It was much more difficult 10 or 15 years ago. But it's made it easier for us to move through these processes and to make sure that we have every asset that we can put on the table to attract these events. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like for you to come up and say a few words.
Jay, thank you very much, and thank you for the Great New Orleans Sports Foundation. Troy, thank you so much for the work that Tulane has done on this, and to Doug and Dennis and Steve, thank you for your leadership, and Mr. and Mrs. Benson, thank you so much for your partnership as well, and I want to thank Ryan Burney from the Mayor's office for being the point for us on this. Troy said it really, really well. New Orleans is the sports capital of America. We do major cultural and sporting events better than anybody else in the country. We've proved that time and time again. This is another example of a big win for the city of New Orleans. It's on top of, as you know, the 2017 NBA All-Star Game, the 2020 College Football Playoff, and the 2020 Women's Final Four Tournament. These are just other examples on top of the French Quarter Fest, the Jazz Fest, Mardi Gras. Nobody does bigger events than the city of New Orleans. And of course, when this event actually is held. The individuals coming into the city have been coming into your brand-new airport. That is a $1 billion investment that now has direct flights to both London and to Frankfurt. The city of New Orleans is on a roll. This is another example of it. And the reason why all of this happens is because we have a great team and we have a great partnership. We have a partnership between the public sector, the private sector, and not-for-profit sector. We're in constant communication with each other. We're working with each other, as I've said many, many times. One team, one fight, one voice, one city. And when we continue to do that, the city of New Orleans, its people, and the state of Louisiana are going to win. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on behalf of the Benson family and the New Orleans Saints, President of the organization, Dennis Lauscher.
Thank you, Jay. I mean, it's been said many times, and I'll say it again. A big part of this is due to the hard teamwork of everyone that's involved. Congratulations to the folks up here in the dais, and obviously congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Benson and our entire team, Ben Hales, who's here, and some other folks that are here as well. We take great pride in being able to attract these events and keep these events. It was said a couple of years ago, a decade ago or so, about how important it is for the members of the sports industry in this town to work together, and if we work together, we can outpunch our weight. We've heard that many times, and again, I think this is an example of that. And through investments from the state, the city, and I also want to bring up investments by Mr. Benson and Mrs. Benson in this facility. This Mercedes-Benz Superdome is as good as or better than any facility that I go to. I go to many, many sporting events. I typically go to over 100, 150 sporting events a year. And I know I'm biased, but this is still home for me, and I think this stadium can hold up against any stadium that I know in the United States or North America. The investment that Mr. Benson has made in the video boards truly make this an unbelievable venue. What we've done, Doug, in the clubs and what we've done with regards to the concourses and Champion Square, and all of those things make this a building that really competes at any level with any building in the United States. And a big part of that, again, is because of the investments that the state, the city, SMG, of course, the Sports Foundation and the Bensons have done to keep it competitive. Troy mentioned something that's really close to my heart, and that's the passion of basketball. We have a great basketball tradition in this state, an unbelievable basketball tradition in this state, and we as an organization try to tap into that every day. The things we do in youth programs, the things we've done across the street to highlight the history of basketball in Louisiana, the things we do with high school athletics, particularly on the basketball and football side. And this is just another example of how we can support basketball, the game of basketball in the state of Louisiana at the college level. So it's so important for us. I'm so proud of the fact that we were able to get this event, another basketball event for a great city in a great building, hosted by a great team. And we're real proud, and thank everyone.
Thank you, Dennis. And now the man who hired me back at the Sports Foundation back in January of 1995, one of the founding fathers of our organization, and now serving as Senior Vice President of all stadiums and arenas for SMG, Doug Thornton.
Thank you, Jay. Gosh, has it been that long? What a privilege and an honor it is for us to be able to host our 6th NCAA Men's Championship here. And certainly, as has been said already, we couldn't do it without the partnership of the people here on this stage. Thanks to you, Gail and Tom Benson, the New Orleans Saints, Jay, the Sports Foundation, Mr. Mayor, the City of New Orleans, Troy, your enthusiasm and leadership, we appreciate that so much. We're looking forward to building a great relationship with you and your tenure at Tulane, and of course, Steve Perry and the CVB and all of our hospitality partners. Like Dennis said, I get to travel around to a lot of different cities that get to host these big events, and I get to interact with some of the host committees that are involved, and I don't think there is a closer-knit group that I deal with around the country, and certainly this one has proven time and time again to be a winning combination, and we're very fortunate to be a part of that. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge Kyle France, who's our board chair with the LSED. We have a new Louisiana Stadium Exposition District Board, and all of our staff, Alan Freeman, who led the bid effort for us, putting together the response to the bid specs, and our entire team here. Many of these men and women have been at this facility for 20-plus years and have been through many of those Final Fours. I'm not sure that any of them have been here since 1982 when we hosted our first one, but this is certainly not the same building that it was in 1982, that's for sure. And as Dennis said, as a result of the investment which has been led by the state of Louisiana and certainly the Saints, we have been able to remain competitive and viable and relevant in the sports competitive nature around the country. We are at the forefront, I think, of facilities as we travel around and see what's out there today. And the reinvestment that has been made into this stadium, certainly since Katrina, there's been over $400 million invested here since 2005, has enabled us to create the infrastructure to host not only the Final Four, the Super Bowl, the All-Star Game, but all of the other events that we do year-round. And it allows this stadium to remain viable. So on behalf of our entire SMG team, congratulations, and thank you to all of our group here. We're looking forward to a great and successful 2022 Men's Final Four.
Thank you, Doug. Our organization certainly knows how difficult and how complicated these bid processes can be. And the last few, particularly difficult in trying to work through issues and complexities of fitting major events into a very, very popular city, especially 5 or 10 years down the road. So Steve Perry and the Convention and Visitors Bureau have really stepped up and helped us work through a lot of those issues, and the hotel community have worked with us to make sure that hotel rooms are available, that rates are where the client wants them to be, and Steve and his group have done an incredible job in helping us out and getting us there. It is a complicated process in a very, very popular city over the next 5 or 10 years. So next, I'd like to ask Steve Perry to say a few words. Steve?
I have to tell all of you, this one feels good, because we've had a lot of explanations to you over the last couple of years, because you've raised the questions of why has New Orleans seemed to have lost its game briefly? Why weren't we winning these major championships? Well, the reality is we knew this was going to happen because of the development of the new billion-dollar stadiums around the country. What's happened in Santa Clara, what's happened in Minneapolis, the evolution of Jerry's facility in Dallas, and of course the new stadium in Atlanta. It changed the competitive world. There was no question about it. But as the mayor so artfully described, everyone still knows in their heart that the finest place to hold a championship event in any sport is New Orleans, because of culture, because of proximity, because all of the assets that make an event enjoyable are within a 10 to 15 minute walk for all of the fans and all of the media, all of the sponsors. Now, Jay alluded to something, and I'm sure you're all very, very curious. How in the world, particularly those of you in the media, I know are wondering, did we get a situation where we had a non-bid process? I mean, you're used to writing articles weeks in advance about the work of the Sports Foundation and the work of the CVB and the work of SMG's team, the work of the New Orleans Saints and Pelicans organizations on moving toward these events. And you know, they get a lot of publicity, which they should, because these events can be worth, depending on the event, anywhere from $100 to $300 or $400 million. Well, this one was different. And so what happened was this. About 6 months ago, the president of the NCAA, Dr. Mark Emmert, called me and said, I have a proposition for you. He said, it's going to be a hard one, though. You're going to, at first you think this is going to be easy, but it could be one of the biggest challenges you've ever had. And I said, all right. Mark and I have known each other for a long time. He says, lay it out. He said, the NCAA has the highest regard for New Orleans, for its professional sports teams and their leadership and ownership, for the mayor, for this new governor of the state who has stood for everything right on the social front that has made us competitive more than any other southern state, but especially because of the iconic nature of New Orleans in sporting championships. You heard Troy talk about it. A lot of you guys are not as old as me, but I was sitting in the stadium when all of the events he described occurred. They're absolutely remarkable. So what happened, and the challenge that was given to us by Mark, was to put together a package that would transcend what would happen in the bid process. You know, the bid process is a difficult one, but you know how your other competitors, you know the angles they come from and you know what they offer. Well, for us, they raised the bar. And they raised the bar in a way that it had never been raised before for a championship from a bid. So Mark laid it out. First thing I did, of course, was in about a second and a half, called Jay. Jay then called, I think, Dennis Lauscha as his first call in his leadership of the Sports Foundation, and we talked to Doug, and Mr. Benson and Mrs. Benson are in the loop, and everyone's working on this. Well, it was a difficult process. This was the most grueling negotiation we've ever participated in, and I'm very proud that we did it over the last few months without it getting out into the public, so that it would be misunderstood and in a way that could have robbed us of the opportunity for winning this bid. So what happened, and you know, the mayor has issued a challenge over the last few years that has been heard very loudly in the private sector community. No governmental entity is flush with money right now. The city has tremendous challenges. The state has huge budget deficits and challenges. Now, we have some tools to work with, but not enough to get there. So this was a time, as the mayor often says, the very best partnerships are the hybrids, the public-private hybrid partnerships that create the one team, one verse. That's what it takes to win these days, especially when you're competing against cities that have extraordinary amounts of money and greater depth from a corporate level than we have. So what we've had in something that is changing the entire dynamic of our pitches for major sporting championships, you have a new alliance that is forged in steel now between the Sports Foundation and the Convention and Visitor Bureau, armed with the proceeds of the hotel assessment. And I want to especially thank our hotel community, because the dollars that they have put up were the difference maker in this, and they were the difference maker in the NBA All-Star Game. They were the difference maker in the flight from Germany with Condor. They're the difference maker in the British Airways flight from London. It's the difference maker in moving Bayou Country Fest to this building. We have an obligation. We've got an obligation to come with dollars, and with significant dollars, and in this case, well over 7 figures, that actually made this possible and gave us the opportunity to partner with Sports Foundation, arm them with the tools, and as a result, we've achieved a tremendous win for the city of New Orleans and everyone that works among those 86,000 people in the hospitality industry, in every neighborhood, in every part of the city, and in 9 surrounding parishes. And the money that we're going to generate for the city budget and for the state budget will be tremendous. But more importantly than all, beside the pure raw economics of it, is New Orleans is a winner again. And we are back in the game. We are back in the game with NBA All-Star Game, with the National College Football Playoff Championship. We are back in the game with Final Four, and there is more to come. So it's an exciting day to all of us, and I want to, as I close, thank the Bensons. It seems like a lifetime of partnership on many, many matters, and a mayor who gets in there and fights with us. He loves this stuff at its core, and that really makes a difference because of his passion for it. And again, finally, to thank Doug Thornton and Alan, because the work with SMG is really critical in this. We even forgive Doug for some of these games being played in Minneapolis now. But we are proud to have the games back where they belong. And thanks to the Sports Foundation and Jay and your team, we're on top again.
Amen, Steve, amen. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce and recognize the father of New Orleans Final Fours. Ron Maestri happens to be with us today, one of our founders here also. At this time, I want to ask if there's any questions of the group. You can ask, and we can come up to the mic. If not, we can do one-on-ones separately. There's also some video assets on the inside the bowl of the Superdome here. If you want to go out and shoot something that will that'll be very picturesque for television or cameras. So we'll meet each other up here on the stage one-on-one. Thank you.